Is it magic or just spicy psychology? Well, Dagdi Vogus Volcha. Hi, hello, and welcome. Jon O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School. And this is a question that came in a bit of time ago. And I'll be honest, I had to sit with it for a while to really kind of stew it over and think about it before I felt I could give a balanced response. And that is my intent to really go about it there today. So, there's a number of different things that we have to think about and consider when we approach this topic of magic. Now, for the purpose of the rest of this video, I'm going to give a definition of magic, and it's the definition that I learned from my partner Laura O'Brien, and I believe it's the Crowley definition as well, or an iteration on that. But we go by magic is the use of natural forces to create change in accordance with your will. So it's clearly just breaking it all down and saying it's the use of natural forces to create change or to alter and shape and shift things in your life, the world, whatever, in accordance with your intent or your will. So really, with that definition, pretty much anything could be defined, any action or activity that we go about in our daily lives could be seen as a magical endeavor. My partner Laura has been doing a series of seed talks around the country. I think we're going to be going back on tour with that soon enough. But when presented with this definition, they would follow up and ask the crowd, like, how many people's granny has ever lit a candle for them, so that they can pass an exam or a driving test, or, that they'll get good news or good results for something that they're worried about. Now, this is a very common Irish tradition, and so in Irish crowds, most of the hands in the crowd go up, because it's quite common. It's a well-known practice. Whether or not they light the candle at home, in their home, in a church, or wherever, it's still following a certain practice because the lighting of a candle is a natural force. It's manifesting and creating fire, which is one of our elemental forces, to create change. So the change is that you get a good result, or that the appointment goes well, or the interview goes well. And then it's in accordance with the will. So the will, or the definition in this instance, is the granny, like, trying to, support whomever it is in the family. Now, that the reason why we present, or my partner Laura presents that, it's so common in Ireland. It's pretty much a cultural trope. Um, but much like putting a child of Prague out under a bush to try and get good weather the next day, does that act itself change and shift the meteorological forecast of the entire world? Or is it just the intention and the awareness around it to try and drive some China change? Now, I have seen it happen. Like, the forecast has been pretty bad. A friend's wedding, actually, there was, oh, it's going to rain. It's going to rain the entire time. But then during the wedding, there was a window of an hour or two where it didn't. So whether or not that's just coincidence or luck or anything like that at all, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but the practice itself was driven towards an intent or a purpose. And I think that's where we need to break it a little bit one step further and kind of analyze it a little bit more if we're going to look at this honestly and with a broadness of mind and scope, and not just go, oh yeah, sure, it's magic because I believe in it. Like, it's about, this is why I took a time to come to this answer, because I did want to think it all the way through. Um, and I do need to coalesce my thoughts so they don't just become a full random hour-long discussion here. But I suppose the what we need to take the next step and stage with is, like, at what point does magic become science? At what point in our cognitive processes, in our evolution, in our exploration of our world around us, and like fine tuning of our understanding of things, our curiosity, get redefined from magic into science? Like, our ancient ancestors knew that there were some trees that, if you weren't feeling well, you could just tear the bark off it, chew on it, and, that would help with your pains. And so much so that it was quite common, and those trees were cultivated for those purposes. And that knowledge was passed down through generations. And over time, someone was like, well, why are these people chewing tree bark? And then someone began to explore it from a different perspective. Someone began to question it in a different way. And next thing you know, we have aspirin, which is made from willow bark. Now, if you were out and about and happen to have a headache, you can just literally take some bark off a willow and chew on it, and you will get a relief to your pain. So, like, there are fundamental circumstances that exist in our world that, we have come to redefine and to understand more of because of our process. And like, does that mean it's no longer magic, or does that mean that it's like, does magic and science like destroy each other in the same way faith and science completely oppose each other? They don't. They absolutely not. We have a lot of different things that human beings experience in our lives that we go through, and we constantly, our curiosity, our minds, our approach to things is trying to understand why, trying to be open to that mindset and kind of tear it down and say, okay, well, what is it that does this? What is it that does that? Which is why we eventually get the someone who, doing an experiment, trying to figure some stuff out. Oh, well, that's gone moldy, but next thing you know, it turns into paracetamol. If not for our curiosity, if not for following all of these, you know, experiences that we have as humans, how would we be where we are now? And it's through those processes of, okay, well, we need to make a change here. And did the scientists, did anyone doing a scientific practice could be in a certain way be engaging in what could be defined as magic, because they're using natural forces. They're taking the bark, for example, they're grinding it down, they're maybe boiling it with heat and water to extract stuff from it, and then, to change our understanding of it, to change our knowledge of it, because in accordance with their will, there's more to be learned from it, there's more to be gained from it. So I'm trying to approach this from a logical, rational point of view as much as from a spiritual, energetic kind of point of view, which may seem to be pulling against each other, but in my opinion, they're actually not when we break it right the way down, because we can see that there is more, and we have documented evidences that the capacity of the human mind, the human will and intent isn't solely defined to just maintaining our ongoing mechanism of life. Um, and the example I wanted to point out here is the placebo effect. Now, we know, and there's many documented experiments where someone would be prescribed something and to do the. I'm not explaining it well. Apologize because I'm feeling like I'm getting turned around on it, and now I'm in some part of my brain is reading the future comments section of what it's going to be like as people ask me to define the studies and everything else. And that's why I've tried to pointed these things to easily accessible information and readily understood information. So we know that people who are given a placebo, which means that it's not a curative or a medication of any way, can still see changes in their body, in their mood, in their approach to things. Now, it's hard to document, was there actually a change, or was there some other biochemical circumstance, or was it just a neurological circumstance from the outset? But the reason why we have this placebo study, or this idea that people without receiving an actual medication could still see alterations and shifts and changes in their body's capacities to deal with things, um, shows that the will, the intent, like the conscious approach to things, to their form, to their body, to their well-being, has an impact, has a serious enough impact. Another example of this is in neuroscience, there's something called mirror neurons. And this is linked to the exploration of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to create new neural pathways, new kind of ways of doing stuff in your brain, literally in the matter of your brain, to redefine how your body does something, or how you learn something or change something. And this is part of what we are as a species, how we evolve and grow and learn. Someone who is, say, predominantly left-handed in their writing, if they're forced to write right-handed, yeah, it'll be difficult, it'll be hard, it'll be challenging for the first while, but after a time, they will be able to write with their right hand, and they'll become very comfortable writing with their right hand, and their signature, their capability, all of that practice and the alteration and the ability that follows is because of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and reorganize itself to fulfill a need. Now, mirror neurons come in the fact that it's been documented that neuroplasticity, this change in and growing of pathways, doesn't have to be solely linked to a physical alteration or a physical practice. It can also be linked to a visualization or a mental practice or a meditation practice, which is why we get sports people being told visualize the goal, visualize the crossing the finish line. Don't visualize the race, visualize the finishing of the race. Visualize yourself having run, having sprinted, having hurdled, whatever it is at the end of the line, standing on the podium. And the more detailed you can visualize that, the more clearer you can make it in your mind, the easier it is for you to achieve that. Now, studies have been done on that, and the thing that takes the person from just a visualization or an imaginative circumstance or a meditation to achieving that goal is because, according to the brain's function of shifting and growing and changing, visualizing something in extreme enough detail is the same as having done it in a certain way. Now, your body may still need the musculature, the change, and all the rest of it, but from the brain's perspective, if you have visualized it enough, it's as real as if you had actually done it. And that's where the mirror neurons come into it. So I know I'm adding in a couple of different elements here of biology, neuroscience, and it's probably not what you're expecting from a magic, is it magic or is it not conversation here, but please bear with me. Um, the other thing that I wanted to include really is about the variations that we have in experience based on our mindset, based on our upbringing, based on our neurological spiciness or our neurospiciness, as we call about it here. And we know that people who exist or function on certain spectrums of, say, ADHD or autism, etc., like they have a different way of seeing things. We have a different way of seeing things, and approaching things, and the mindset that we come at things can be different when it comes down to doing simple tasks or processing challenging subjects or interacting with other people in a social environment. There's different ways that we go about it. That doesn't mean it's any better or any worse. It's just a different approach based on the neuro programming or processes that go through there. So when we take ideas or concepts around neurospicy like pattern recognition or hyper focused or hyperfixation, and then we apply that in another sense to a broader narrative or scope. Did you ever meet someone and then suddenly just instinctually don't like them? Or you're instinctually best buddies. There's some part of whatever information you're gathering, even on a conscious or subconscious level, that is being recognized or linked or associated with. And people with certain neurospicy patterns, ADHD, autism, etc., are more capable or, well, more prone to the impact of those pattern recognitions or the hyperfocus or the burnout or the need to be separate or away from too much stimulus. Introverty type person here as well, as much as I play an extrovert on the internet. Um, but like, who's to say like that concepts of prophecy or divination don't fall into a similar vein of someone who has seen enough or experienced enough to really have a good view or a good grasp on what way something's going to go, whether they rationally understand it or not, because they get the patterns, they understand it, they've seen this kind of behavior before, they've seen some influences or impacts, and so they're like they just know, or they seem to just know. Is that magic or is that not? Like, so I know I'm throwing out a lot of concepts here, and I need to probably pull it all back in and try and coalesce this into an answer to the question of the Kesht. So the question is it magic or is it just spicy psychology? And I suppose the answer not hard to say is I think it's a bit of both. And I don't think they're opposed to each other or different in any way, shape, and form. In the same way, what we understand as science now was magic to our ancestors. What we understand as, oh yeah, well, this is just fundamental here. Here is my voice being broadcast all around the world through a mechanism of ones and zeros powered by the arcing of electrons across filaments of wire and plastics, which encircle our entire world, or being broadcast into the orbits and then coming down via satellites around the world. This is amazing. Like in my lifetime, where I was the remote control for my family. Oh, we want to change channel. John, get up and change that channel. Walk over, press the buttons, stay there and wait until something comes on, and then I get to go down and go and sit down again. First TV we had was black and white. Like, so much has happened and changed and altered in my lifetime alone, which is only 40 plus years, that now you may be hearing my voice, seeing this video on a small computer-sized thing you're carrying around in your pocket, which has more information on it and more computing capability than the machines that put human beings on the moon. Like, it, all of this is about change and transformation, and we have changed and transformed in so many ways and shapes and forms as a people and as a culture. So I don't see that there's a differentiation between magic and science or the psychology that goes around with it. What I would say is just because we can rationalize some aspect of it and we have done the science on some aspects of it, doesn't mean that we have all of the answers. Doesn't mean that there's no more curiosity to be found. We talk about like people's spirits being linked or people coming back or their energy, being reborn into different lifetimes or carrying memories from one life to another. We talk about all of these spiritual concepts when we are approaching and understanding ourselves as more than just physical beings. And then we throw in things like quantum mechanics, where we know that there is subatomic particles that are bound to each other and that can be influenced one to the other across vast distance because of quantum entanglement and the bondings of those energy structures. Like, we know a lot, we're learning a lot, but that doesn't mean that we know everything. And so I do think that there's still a place for, exploring the concepts of magic in that definition. And when we take a definition like the one we use, which is using natural forces to create change in accordance with your will, or just using any forces to create change in accordance with your will, and that could be the force of your voice educating and informing other people. And so then we're changing the direction of a country because people are informed and they're making decisions. We're changing the direction of our culture. We're changing the directions of our children or our descendants because we're informing them and altering how things are going for them, which means that we have to own up to the responsibility of the change in accordance with our will. What is our will defined as here, and how are we defining the change that is coming based on what we're willing to happen or not willing to happen? Now, I'm speaking sign like yeah, I'm pretty. I feel like I'm going to get off topic if I don't rein that in pretty quickly. But taking a definition like that and applying it to the concepts of magic, it really then comes down to asking for yourself the personal response of, does it work for you? Like, at the end of the day, if lighting a candle, drawing a card, tarot card, a rune stone, or an alms stave, or any other ritual that you go through in your day-to-day life, if doing that gives you a sense of clarity or focus or a sense of security, peace of mind, doesn't really matter. Or because whether it's defined as magic or not, the effect of it is real and measurable for you. Now, I have been in and worked with groups in many different capacities in my time, and I have my own experiences, and I'm very open and honest about, talking about them when I can. And yeah, I have experienced, impact of energy from someone across a room. I've seen someone lose their temper and black out a call center. I have my own experiences around these things, and we talk about like, is it coincidence? Is it not? I think there's more that connects us to our environment, to our world, to each other than we currently perceive, or in some cases want to perceive, and we have to own that as we grow and change as a people and as a species. But at the end of the day, like, whether you call it magic, whether you call it science, whether you call it whatever you want to call it, if the results of it are measurable for you and you're able to create change in accordance with your will to be a better version of yourself or to support your people or your community in a better way, then it works, and that's the way it needs to be. That's what it is. I know myself, you know, every morning I have a shower. Every morning, like, absolutely. I could say religiously, but because it's not actually part of a religion, but it is it's become part of a spiritual practice for me, but also a mental health practice. In my most difficult, struggling times of mental health, when I found it hard to do absolutely anything. I've set myself the one goal every day, which is get up and have a fucking shower. And even if I did nothing else other than lose myself in a book, a game, or disassociate or whatever after that, I got up and I had a shower, and that was enough. Now, over time, over the years since then, decades actually, um, I still get up and I have a shower, but now it's become part of a process of checking in with myself, mental health assessments, but then also a visualization of water flowing down over me, but while the water literally flows down over me, and letting go of the previous day, letting go of any negativity or any guilt or any shame that I might be carrying, and trying to approach the next day, or the day once I get out of my shower, from as clean and refreshed a position as I can. Now, my experience having changed my habits around showers in that way and including that intentionality has changed my life. It really, really has. Now, I'm not perfect, absolutely fucking not. I have a lot still to do and still go on with. But that ritual for me helps me deal with a lot of stuff that I find it hard to deal with. And so it works for me. Is that magic? Well, it could be. I'm using natural forces, water, to create change, to let go of my mental health, my past, my any negative energies or anything I've put upon myself or is around me, in accordance with my will, which is to finish my shower, even if it is 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Well, if I'm shaving or scrubbing my hair, a few more minutes than that. Um, like, it's a practice and it works. Doesn't make it magic. It's magic for me. And that's what it is at the end of the day. So I'm not going to define it for anyone else. I'm not going to say, oh, well, this is how you do it and this is not how you do it. And if you don't summon in the four quarters and acknowledge the elements in their cardinal directions, you're doing. No, I'm not trained in a particular ritual format like that. But again, people who do and are trained in that have and describe a different level experience when they focus and generate their energy and their intent to create a change or to create a moment of change or a space for it. And I'm grateful to be someone who helps facilitate those spaces for other people to allow them to approach it for themselves. So, bit of a ramble there at the end, but really to bring it all back, I don't think there's much of a difference between magic or neurospicy. I think it is all the same process as we have as human beings, exploring our world around us, exploring our connection to everything that exists, physical, non-physical, and everything else. Because there is more, as Shakespeare wrote, there's more exists in heaven, in the heavens and earths, than in your philosophy, Horatio. Um, I believe it's Hamlet, that one. But the idea that we have reached a peak of our understanding is wrong. Like, there's still so much more science and exploration being done, and science which is following up on old folklore as well. One of the more fascinating ones, there was an old priest in Ireland known as Father Gur, and he was said to have a cure for headaches. In that people would come to him, and when they'd go away, they'd have their headache taken care of. And when he died, he said he promised people that the cure would be on his grave dirt. And so people would still take a piece of grave dirt, put it under the pillow to cure their headache, and the next day they'd have to return that grave dirt. Since then, scientists have gone and explored the grave dirt of Father Gur and have found a particular unique microbial organism living in that grave dirt, which seems to help with superbugs and the difficulties that people have with what's it um bacteria that become immune to certain medications or anything that we have, antibiotic resistant bacteria and stuff like that. So here's a new thing that could be leading to that. I saw a fantastic study about mycelium and wondering about mycelium interconnectedness, and is there an intelligence in some form that runs through mushrooms, which makes a lot of sense to me because mycelium and mushroom networks branch and connect between trees, and that's how trees support and grow and share resources one to the other in groves and in forests. So there's a lot that we are still learning, and we should stay curious. We should invest in our sciences. We should invest in our curiosity. But that doesn't mean that there is no space for how we define ourselves in magic or as magical practices. So, I don't know if I've answered the question or just rambled it all around. As I said, it's been a while sitting in our inbox as I've been chewing this one over. But hopefully, this has been an interesting or an insight in at least my thoughts on it and where my mindset goes with it. There's so much that we can look at and explore, but at the end of the day, it does come back to that personal experience for ourselves and approaching that as honestly and openly and responsibly as we can for ourselves. As ever, thank you very much for your questions or kept with the Irish Pagan School. Do make sure you pick up the free resources that we have on irishpagan.school/free. If you're not on the mailing list, join the mailing list. We send out reminders with the content there as well. And as ever, look after yourself. Take care. Agus Slán. Goodbye.